Most people think they know the Vietnam War from history class, but cinema tells a completely different story. Here's the thing. Some of the greatest, most unflinching Vietnam War films are buried on YouTube right now, unwatched and forgotten. We're talking about masterpieces that destroyed careers, documentaries that sparked riots, and hidden gems that explain what really happened in the jungle better than any textbook ever could. So stick around as we count down 12 Vietnam War movies you can stream right now on YouTube that absolutely shattered how Hollywood portrayed combat, morality, and the true cost of war. Number 12. Hamburger Hill, 1987. 10 days, 1 hill, 500 casualties. Director John Irvin created an absolutely suffocating war drama about the 1969 assault on Hill 937 in the A Shau Valley. The film strips away all sentimentality and throws viewers directly into the mud, exhaustion, and pointless violence of grinding hill warfare. Actor Anthony Burrill commands a squad of teenagers basically fighting for nothing. They capture the hill, then get orders to abandon it. The enemy recaptures it, over and over. The repetition is deliberate and maddening. Sergeant Major Warren plays the brutal veteran who understands the war machine doesn't care about individual lives. He's just trying to keep his men alive long enough to rotate home. The production spent 3 months in boot camp conditions. Actors lost dangerous amounts of weight. Some genuinely questioned whether the shoot itself was ethical. Critic Vincent Canby called it a masterpiece of sustained dread. The final assault on the hillside is visceral and devastating, because viewers spent 90 minutes with these kids before they got sent up there. Military historians use it in officer training because it shows how small unit leadership breaks down under extreme stress. The film earned only $14 million against a $24 million budget, but it's become more respected with time as audiences recognized its uncompromising take on pointless combat. Number 11. Apocalypse Now, 1979. Francis Ford Coppola mortgaged everything to create this hallucinatory fever dream that captures Vietnam's psychological horror more than any documentary ever could. Marlon Brando's Colonel Kurt sits upriver, operating outside military command, worshipped by indigenous troops. Captain Willard journeys upriver aboard a Navy patrol boat to assassinate him. The production descended into absolute madness. Brando showed up overweight and improvised his dialogue. Martin Sheen suffered a heart attack on set. The Philippine government nearly shut down filming multiple times. Coppola spent millions on helicopters, explosions, and elaborate set pieces. The final budget ballooned to $31 million, making it the most expensive film ever made at that time. Yet the chaos on set somehow translated into pure cinematic genius. The famous helicopter attack scene set to Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries became one of cinema's most iconic sequences. Sheen's voiceover narration, written during production, gives viewers access to a soldier's fragmenting psychology. Critic Roger Ebert called it masterful, troubling, and unlike anything audiences had experienced. And the film won 4 Academy Awards and inspired countless imitators, but none captured Coppola's deliberate ambiguity about whether Americans were civilized liberators or becoming the savages themselves. Its influence on war cinema is absolutely immeasurable. Number 10. Platoon, 1986. Oliver Stone directed his own memories into this Vietnam film because he actually fought there as an infantry platoon member. That authenticity is stamped on every frame. Charlie Sheen stars as a young, educated draftee who joins a platoon commanded by 2 contradictory sergeants, the brutal, ruthless Barnes and the philosophical, protective Elias. The entire film becomes a battle for Sheen's character's soul between these competing philosophies. Stone cast real Vietnam veterans alongside professional actors, creating an ensemble that genuinely felt like brothers thrown together by circumstance. The battle sequences are chaotic and terrifying. No heroic music, no moral clarity, just frightened kids trying to survive. The controversial scene where American soldiers commit atrocities against Vietnamese villagers shocked audiences accustomed to clear-cut Hollywood morality. Stone insisted on showing that war corrupts everyone it touches. Critics immediately recognized Platoon as the first Vietnam film that actually felt like it came from someone who understood the war viscerally rather than intellectually. It earned $140 million worldwide against a $6 million budget, becoming a massive cultural phenomenon. Young audiences recognized the film's honesty. Veterans finally felt seen. But the film won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and Stone's personal perspective transformed how Hollywood could approach war cinema. He proved that subjective, emotionally honest storytelling could matter more than objective documentation. Number 9. Full Metal Jacket, 1987. Stanley Kubrick split this film into 2 halves: the brutal dehumanization of Marine Corps training, then the controlled chaos of street combat in Hughes City. R. Lee Ermey's gunnery Sergeant Hartman delivers the most ferocious, uncompromising verbal assault in cinema history. Every insult, every degradation was improvised by Ermey, a former Marine. Kubrick kept the cameras rolling and captured something genuinely disturbing about how armies transform civilians into soldiers. Young actor Matthew Modine watches his brother in arms descend into madness under Hartman's systematic psychological destruction. The Paris Island sequences are so intense that military recruiters reported decreased enlistment after screenings. Kubrick deliberately cast the Tet Offensive portion in an actual Vietnamese city, using real urban warfare tactics for the second half. The tonal shift disorients viewers just like it disorients soldiers deploying to actual combat. Critic Gene Siskel praised Kubrick's refusal to provide emotional catharsis. The film ends ambiguously. Victory means nothing. The soldiers march through Hugh singing a Mickey Mouse song, psychologically fractured. It earned $46 million worldwide but divided audiences. Some called it a masterpiece of psychological warfare cinema. Others claimed Kubrick was exploiting Vietnam for abstract formal experimentation. That debate continues decades later, proving the film's power to provoke genuine disagreement about warfare's moral dimensions. Number 8. Coming Home, 1978. Jon Voight plays a paralyzed Marine homecoming to California, while his wife, played by Jane Fonda, finds companionship with a wounded veteran hospital worker. This isn't a battle film. It's about the war's soldiers fight on the home front when their bodies return but their minds remain in jungles. Voight's character must rebuild his identity as a quadriplegic facing a lifetime of dependence. The film shows his genuine rage, not sanitized, not made comfortable for audiences. Fonda's character must confront her own complicity in supporting the war, then discovering its actual human costs through genuine connection. Director Hal Ashby refused to lecture viewers. He simply showed 2 caring people trapped by circumstance and their own emotional limitations. The film was controversial because Fonda remained despised by conservatives for her anti-war activism. Some veterans felt the film romanticized opposition to the war. Others recognized its nuanced approach to how warriors struggle with changed bodies and changed perspectives. It earned $90 million, proving that intimate character drama could compete with blockbuster action. Voight won an Academy Award for showing vulnerability rarely seen in male military performances. The film remains powerful because it refuses easy answers about patriotism, sacrifice, or what returning soldiers deserve from their nation. Number 7. The Deer Hunter, 1978. Michael Cimino's 3-hour marathon follows working-class Pennsylvania steelworkers through one hunting trip before Vietnam, their trauma during captivity, and their fractured attempts at readjustment afterward. This is the film that broke Robert De Niro into superstardom. He plays Michael, a careful, controlled hunter who becomes a war machine, then struggles with what his hands have done. The famous Russian roulette scenes created absolute cultural controversy. Viewers debated endlessly about whether such scenes actually happened. Historians argued the filmmakers invented this horror for dramatic effect. Yet Cimino refused to confirm or deny it, claiming the emotional truth mattered more than documentary accuracy. The film's first 90 minutes before Vietnam deployment is leisurely, almost mundane, watching these men drink beer and plan a hunting expedition. That deliberate pacing makes the war sequences absolutely devastating. The contrast between peaceful American normality and combat's chaos is visceral. De Niro's Michael returns changed, unable to truly connect with his old life. The ending's ambiguity remains powerful. The film earned $48 million and won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Critics recognized Cimino had created something monumentally important about how soldiers return fundamentally altered by warfare. The film's influence on subsequent war cinema was profound, proving that character development could carry a 3-hour film better than action sequences alone. Number 6. Born on the 4th of July, 1989. Tom Cruise plays Ron Kovich, a Marine who returns from Vietnam paralyzed from the waist down, becoming an anti-war activist who protests the very conflict that wounded him. Director Oliver Stone returns with another autobiographical perspective, this time bringing his own activist sympathies to the material. Cruise delivers his finest dramatic performance, transforming from jingoistic Marine into broken activist wrestling with betrayal, anger, and purpose. The film shows his rehabilitation, his struggle with depression, his tentative relationship with his conservative family who expected him to remain silent. Kovich's journey becomes the film's true narrative, how a loyalist soldier becomes a fierce opponent of the war his nation continued fighting. The film was controversial for its activist perspective. Conservatives felt it betrayed veterans. Progressives sometimes felt it didn't go far enough in condemning military power. Stone rejected both criticisms, showing Kovich's genuine complexity. The climax features Cruise's character speaking at the 1976 Democratic Convention, an older version of himself delivering a powerful anti-war speech. Audiences felt the emotional weight of transformation. Cruise earned Academy Award nomination for showing genuine emotional breakdown, refusing masculine stoicism. The film earned $70 million, proving mainstream audiences wanted nuanced perspectives on warfare. Stone proved twice with Platoon and Born on the 4th of July that subjective activist filmmaking could reach mass audiences and change cultural conversations about military service. Start number 584, Charlie Mopic, 1989. This criminally underrated film follows a 5-man long-range reconnaissance patrol team operating behind enemy lines in Cambodia. Director Patrick Duncan made his feature directorial debut with this realistic procedural examination of how elite soldiers actually operate during wartime. The title refers to a photography specialist who documents the operation, becoming the film's perspective character. There's barely any dramatic score. The film relies entirely on authentic military procedure, genuine soldier banter, and the psychological tension of being hunted by an enemy you can see but must avoid. The production was made largely by Vietnam veterans who understood LRRP operations from lived experience. Every detail feels precise: weapon handling, radio procedure, patrol formation. The soldiers discuss home, fear, and the abstract reasons they're risking their lives in someone else's war. Actor Glenn Ross commands the team with quiet authority. The ambush sequences are deliberately chaotic rather than choreographed. Critics largely ignored the film's 1989 release, but military professionals recognized its authenticity immediately. Vietnam veterans reported watching it repeatedly because it finally showed their actual war experience rather than Hollywood dramatization. The film earned only $3 million at the box office, yet it's accumulated tremendous cult status among serious war film enthusiasts. Duncan's meticulous attention to military procedure and psychological realism proved that documentarian approaches to filmmaking could rival spectacle-driven blockbusters. And number 4, Heaven and Earth, 1993. Oliver Stone completes his Vietnam trilogy by following a Vietnamese peasant woman from her childhood through American marriage and her eventual return to Vietnam. Lee Hayslip's remarkable true story remained untold in American cinema until Stone's ambitious film. Production spent months in Vietnam, working with Vietnamese actors and crew, bringing indigenous perspectives to the story. Hayslip experiences warfare as a civilian, is drawn into military service, is captured and assaulted, finds temporary sanctuary through marriage to an American soldier, then discovers her new life in America contains its own horrors. The film is Stone's most personal work, deliberately rejecting American-centric perspectives. Mainstream critics largely dismissed it. American audiences struggled with a Vietnam War film that didn't center American soldiers' experiences. Yet the film's perspective remains absolutely necessary. Over 2 million Vietnamese civilians died during the war. Their stories deserve telling. Hayslip's journey shows how warfare devastates entire populations, not just combatants. The film's final scenes show Hayslip returning to Vietnam after America, a Buddhist pilgrimage seeking peace. Stone refuses climactic resolution. Peace remains elusive. The film earned only $12 million, disappointing Stone's studio. Yet it remains Stone's most controversial Vietnam work, forcing uncomfortable questions about American involvement and civilian responsibility. Number 3, Hearts and Minds, 1974. Peter Davis created this Academy Award-winning documentary by traveling Vietnam. interviewing American military architects, soldiers, and Vietnamese civilians affected by bombing campaigns. Rather than presenting a traditional documentary structure, Davis intersperses interviews with archival footage, creating a disorienting emotional experience. Viewers gradually realize the documentary is an argument about American moral responsibility. The film wasn't just controversial, it sparked genuine cultural warfare. Conservative politicians attacked it viciously. Some Pentagon officials claimed Davis deliberately cherry-picked interviews to present biased perspectives. Davis countered that showing the war's actual human consequences wasn't bias, it was obligation. The film's most powerful sequences show Vietnamese families discussing civilian casualties, then cuts to American military strategists calmly discussing bombing tonnage without acknowledging the human impact. That juxtaposition became the film's essential argument. American decision-makers had successfully compartmentalized warfare into abstract statistics while Vietnamese civilians experienced concrete devastation. The Academy Awards presentation became controversial when protesters interrupted the ceremony regarding the film's criticism. That scene became historically significant, capturing the continued American cultural division about Vietnam's rightness. Hearts and Minds earned over $5 million in limited release, remarkable for a political documentary. Number 2. We Were Soldiers, 2002. Mel Gibson commands his 1st Cavalry Division into the Valley of Death in this brutally honest film that refuses to hide what ambush warfare actually looks like. Based on the real 1965 battle at Ia Drang, Randall Wallace's film doesn't play politics. It shows American soldiers as capable warriors and Vietnamese defenders as intelligent, disciplined combatants. That respect for both sides made it controversial when it dropped. Gibson's character rides into hell alongside his men, and the film emphasizes leadership by example rather than jingoistic flag-waving. The opening battle sequences run nearly 20 minutes without music, just the terrifying crackle of actual combat. War documentarian Ken Burns praised it for showing that Vietnam wasn't a simple morality play. It was a nightmare of professional soldiers doing their job against equally professional enemies. The movie cost $75 million and earned $83 million worldwide, proving audiences craved authentic military drama. What absolutely floors historians is how accurately the film depicts Viet Cong and North Vietnamese tactics. They didn't fight like Western soldiers. They fought in waves, they used the terrain ruthlessly, and the filmmakers captured that complexity. Gibson later said his character represents what Vietnam demanded from commanders: impossible choices that haunt you forever. Number 1. The Killing Fields, 1984. Director Roland Joffé dramatizes journalist Death Prun's true experience surviving the Cambodian genocide that followed American bombing campaigns. While technically Cambodia rather than Vietnam, the American military involvement and the genocide's connection to Vietnam War policies makes this film essential context. Sam Waterston plays American correspondent Sidney Schanberg, while Dr. Hang S. Ngor plays Pran. Ngor was himself a Cambodian genocide survivor with no prior acting experience. His authentic presence haunts every frame. The film shows Pran's systematic dehumanization through forced labor, starvation, and psychological terror under the Khmer Rouge regime. Schanberg's guilt about abandoning his Cambodian assistant proves as devastating as Pran's physical suffering. The film refuses comfortable resolution. When Pran finally escapes and reunites with Schanberg, the emotional reunion is muted, broken. Neither man will ever fully recover from their experiences. Critics recognize the film's unflinching examination of American foreign policy consequences. The bombing of Cambodia, intended to disrupt supply lines, destabilize the government, and contributed conditions enabling the genocide. The Killing Fields forces viewers to confront American military decisions' devastating regional consequences. The production earned $40 million worldwide, introducing American audiences to Cambodian perspectives they'd previously ignored. So, there you have it, 18 Vietnam War films you can stream on YouTube right now that absolutely shatter the mainstream narrative about what that war actually was and what it cost everybody involved. Not just American soldiers, but the Vietnamese population, the Cambodian consequences, the Afghan and Pakistani civilians now experiencing drone warfare. These films prove that cinema might be the most honest medium for exploring warfare's moral complexities. Which of these films destroyed you the most? Did we miss any essential Vietnam cinema you believe deserves consideration? Here's the real question for the comments section. Are these Vietnam films more honest about military service than current military recruitment advertising? Drop your takes below because this conversation matters deeply.